presentation, I want to cover a little housekeeping and walk through some technology issues related to Zoom. So if we can, let's go ahead and take a look at the technology check slide. If you are hearing my voice right now, hopefully you're also seeing on the slide in front of you just a few items related to the Zoom technology, the Zoom platform. So first thing to know is that for the audio, if you are calling in on your phone, that's wonderful. You can also hear the audio through your computer. We do have, if for some reason your sound starts to break up or it starts to become garbled, please try the other mechanism. So if you're on your phone, try joining on the computer or vice versa. We will use the chat, several of the features in Zoom today with you. We'll use the chat to ask you questions later on in the presentation. We'll have it open throughout so you can see the comments and see what's going on. I do want to pause and just do a quick check now to see if you guys are able to see the chat function. So if you could go ahead and type in, yes, hello, I hear you, you're making words to me. Okay, great, thank you. I'm seeing the chat box alive with comments, so thank you. That's very comforting for you guys to let us know that you can hear our words when we're speaking. So as I said, we'll keep the chat open and use it particularly to collect questions at the end of the presentation. So just good to know. In addition to that, we will ask you 3 different times throughout today's presentation to answer poll questions, very simple questions about what's going on, what you're seeing, what's happening for you in your projects. And so just be on the lookout for that. Those poll questions should pop up for you at as I said, 3 different points through the next hour. And then finally, again, we are recording today's presentation, and we will have this recording available for you in just a few days. And we will post the audio recording along with the visuals that you're seeing today on the VISTA campus. So those are my quick technology check announcements. It's my pleasure to turn over the presentation to kick off our presentation today to the director of the VISTA program, Desiree Tucker-Serini. Desiree, you are on. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Good afternoon. I hope that all of you and your families are healthy and safe during this trying time. This crisis has taught us the importance of connections and communication, and it's our goal to connect and communicate with you. Thank you so much for the essential work you are doing in the field. We recognize the tremendous pressure you, your families, your organizations, and communities are under. These are uncertain times that require strength, creativity, and leadership. I have seen enormous amounts of creativity, as I know you have too, in watching the news. One of the things we would love to hear from you is how you are creatively reacting to this particular crisis in your community and how you are creatively using your VISTAs. We are trying to highlight that throughout CNCS and all of our social media sites to show sort of that American ingenuity. I'm going to point out just a couple of things that I heard that just warmed my heart. There was a young junior in high school with her mother who was working to get gift cards from local eateries and restaurants donated, and then they would distribute them to families in need. This was going to help both local eateries stay in business during this very difficult time and also help people who are hungry. I've also heard about bus routes and bus drivers working their normal bus routes, but delivering groceries and food to those in need. There are many other creative solutions that are working to help people with a limited amount of physical contact. I'm sure you are all working creatively to pivot to the critical needs in your community, and that's leadership. Next slide, please. We are also planning and anticipating future needs. We are looking at ways to support you and your organization, your projects, and your VISTA members. We want to know how your current programs are affected by this crisis. We are looking at creative and innovative ways to meet the needs you are seeing in your communities. Anything you share with us about the needs will help us be more responsive to you. We will continue to do our part and share with you updates and impacts on national service as the situation evolves. Just like you, we are turning to the CDC, federal, state, and local officials to guide our thinking and actions. CNCS leadership has been in constant contact and discussion and consultation with the White House, the Office of Management and Budget, and Congress on the flexibilities that are available to use under our legislative and regulatory authority to support you, VISTA members, and the communities. Next slide, and can we go to our first poll question? Let's hear from you about your work with members right now and open up this first question. I'll give you a couple of seconds to reply.
Yeah, hey Desiree, this is Barbara. I just wanted to let folks know. It looks like Zoom may be having a bit of a lag. There should be an actual poll pop-up screen that's coming your way for you to type in, and I see people are answering these questions in the chat as well. So Desiree, just wanted to let you know, it looks like the technology may be lagging a little bit.
That's okay. I think the entire world is using this and many other platforms to communicate with people. So we are happy to adapt. I'll give you just a little bit more time. Did it pop up at all?
Yeah, I'm not seeing it on my end. Looks like people are, our colleagues are also typing in the chat that they're not seeing the pop-up screen. So good, lots of good answers going in the chat for you. Yep, lots of folks talking about their answers to the currently serving members are teleserving. Lots of those are being indicated in the chat.
Terrific. We were hoping that we could use this technology to inform us and inform you, but we will keep moving on. Feel free to keep answering the question. We appreciate it. Next slide, advance if you can to the CARES slide. Oh, we do have it. We do have the results. Barbara, do you want to just quickly share the results? Oh, we don't really. It's not a lot of people. Let's just move on.
Okay. Yep.
I did want to talk about the most recent law that was passed by Congress and signed by the President, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, for short, CARES. This is the third bill that Congress has passed and the President has signed to assist the country during this time of need. The provisions that impact CNCS are that it ensures AmeriCorps members can earn their full Siegel AmeriCorps Education Award if their service is disrupted due to COVID-19 and they have successfully completed 50% of their service year. So for VISTA, that would be 183 days. The way the legislation was written, it left out the end of year stipend. So that will be prorated based on the time that they have served. We understand that was not the intent of Congress, so there could possibly be a change in that later on. It also allows for AmeriCorps state and national grantees receiving fixed amount awards to access their full federal funding based on member enrollment. It expands the AmeriCorps NCCC upper age and program term limit for members whose service was disrupted due to COVID-19 emergency. So they typically go from 18 to 24 and now can in case they age out of their ability to serve, they can serve until 26. And then it also allows, which is not on the slide, CNCS to carry over unexpended funds from 2020 into 2021 fiscal year. Of course, it is our intent to spend all of our appropriated FY 2020 dollars, but it does give CNCS that flexibility. We do anticipate that there will be a fourth bill. We have even heard that there could be a fourth, fifth, and sixth bill, but we feel pretty strongly that Congress will enact another bill. And we are working closely with our partners about other provisions or technical corrections. Some of the issues we are working on here at CNCS and VISTA are, I'm just going to list a few of them. We're getting a lot of questions from some of you regarding converting cost share members to standard members, and we are evaluating our options and hope to have an update on this in the next couple of weeks. Could we go to the next slide, please? At CNCS, we have extended staff telework and we have canceled non-essential travel indefinitely. We are in week 3 of our full-time telework status. Of course, when we say that this is, we've done this indefinitely, when it is appropriate and when we get the appropriate guidance from CDC and our other medical professionals, we will go back to the office. But I feel like we haven't missed a beat in this crazy time. As CNCS has made these announcements, we at VISTA looked at our schedule for this spring, and we have made the very, very difficult decision to cancel all sponsor convenings. The one that we already had announced that we had canceled the one for April, but we are canceling the one for May and June. And in addition to that, the IST that's scheduled for June. I hate to use the word cancel because that's not really what we are doing. What we're trying to do is repurpose a couple of virtual trainings on critical issues that we believe you could be needing in the future, both for the needs that you have now, as well as what you need to scale up quickly once we are past the contagion. We will get back to you. We want to make sure that we have a really robust opportunity for some kind of virtual gathering for all of us. We've also heard from many of you that you continue to have either safe service assignments or on-site, or that you have successfully transitioned to full-time teleservice. We're encouraged to see your adaptability and innovation during this time. We know it's challenging. Could we go to the next slide, please? Many of you have asked about bringing on new service members during this time. And yes, you may bring on new members. The up and coming BMO dates are May 11th and June 8th. For those of you hosting summer associate programs, summer associates may start service on or after May 1st. And as always, the timing of bringing on new members is in coordination with your regional or state office. We will be providing some reminders to you about this in the next week or so. We also wanted to let you know that sponsors should be continuing to promote service opportunities. Given that we don't know where we will be in this health crisis when the summer associates typically serve, we are looking at options that include teleservice and providing relief service that follows CDC guidelines on practicing social distancing and wearing the proper protective gear. Could we go to the next slide, please, with the poll question number 2?
And I think if we could, folks, we're actually going to get the pop-up screen to come to collect your answers on this poll. If you could hold off and not answer in the chat box, let's see if the technology will be our friend this time. It'll be super helpful for us if we can tabulate everyone's results. So please don't answer in the chat, and if we can wait just a second, see if the Zoom pop-up is going to come up for us. All right, if you are seeing the poll popping up, please go ahead and answer that. Answer the poll question there. And if you are not seeing the pop-up window on your screen, if you can say that in the, yep, I'm seeing some comments in the chat on that. So let's give it just a few more seconds. I think it could just be really slow, so I want to use the technology if it will let us do that. All right. So not seeing anything. All right, Desiree, I'm sorry to say, I think it's just not going to work for us. So are you okay if people just answer in the chat? Is that all right?
Of course.
Yeah, yes. Sorry about that, you guys. I was so optimistic for a second.
we were trying to be really, really high tech.
Yep. Folks are
we have now adopted a new, not a new phrase, new mantra, which is perfect. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. So we are trying to prove how flexible and adaptable and resilient we are during this. So thank you, Barbara. Again, I'd like to say that our team is here to work with you and to help you as we navigate the most challenging time our world has really ever seen. We know you are all on the front lines, and we appreciate all that you are doing in your communities. I would like to ask Carly Bruder, our Deputy Director of VISTA, to provide you with a quick update on our facts and questions, as well as some policy changes. And Carly, before you start, I'd like us to advance to the next slide. Carly, take it away.
Thank you, Desiree. As Desiree mentioned, I'm going to give an overview of the FAQs, the frequently asked questions that are currently available on our website, nationalservice.gov/coronavirus. Most of this is a summary of information that is previously available, but we wanted to highlight it again. As you are all aware, we've implemented teleservice, and we've made 2 exceptions to our teleservice policy to support our members during this time. Members are allowed to teleserve full-time, and members are eligible to teleserve regardless of when their service began. Previously, members had to be in service for a certain amount of time before they could begin teleserving, and we've removed that requirement. On our last call with you, many of you raised a really great question around teleserving from a location other than a member's residence. We did add an FAQ to address that, and yes, with supervisor approval, a VISTA member may teleserve from a location other than their current residence. You also know that we've been utilizing emergency leave, and members who cannot teleserve due to lack of teleservice resources or lack of assignments suitable for teleservice may use emergency leave. Sponsors may grant up to 30 calendar days of emergency leave, and that's a policy exception, whereas previously that was up to 5 days of emergency leave. We also had a question and have added an FAQ to our website around using a combination of emergency leave and teleservice. Yes, members may use a combination of emergency leave and teleservice. For example, if a VISTA member's assignment can be adjusted for teleservice, but it does not have enough activities for full-time teleservice, VISTA members can use some days of teleservice and some days of emergency leave. Or if VISTA members have caregiver responsibilities and are able to teleserve sometimes, but not full time, they can complete teleservice and then also use emergency leave when they need to be providing caregiving responsibilities. As we mentioned on our call last time and also on our frequently asked questions, VISTA has developed a virtual alternative to fingerprint submissions for background checks for members who started service on March 16th and for members who started service in February that had not yet submitted their physical fingerprint cards. Those members were emailed on March 23rd with the instructions for accessing the online background check. And we have gotten a good response and are continuing to get responses in, and people are submitting their fingerprints through, submitting their name-based checks through that online method. I also wanted to highlight a few frequently asked questions that are related to closing service and to the end of service benefits. An FAQ that has been up on our website for a long time, this is not new, related to documentation for early termination of service. Early on, there was questions around the need to submit medical documentation if someone was having a medical early termination. As a temporary exception to VISTA policy, a member may submit a written statement describing their circumstances in lieu of medical documentation. And then I wanted to highlight one FAQ that was just added earlier this week that's related to the end of service benefit option. As you know, VISTA members have the choice between two end of service benefits. VISTA members have the option of an education award or a cash stipend. And we're making an exception to our policy around members changing their end of service benefit from the education award to the cash stipend. Normally, members have up until their 10th month of service to make that switch, and we've now reduced that time or expanded that time so that they have up until 1 week before their end of service. So we have heard from some members that because of the state of the world and changing affairs, they would like to switch from the education award to the cash stipend, and it's after the deadline. So we've expanded that deadline to best support our members. To make a change, members must email the VISTA Member Support Unit at vmsu@cns.gov. Prior to the 10th month, members can make that change themselves directly in the My AmeriCorps portal, but to make the change after the 10th month deadline, they need to email the VMSU, and we have to manually make that adjustment in the back end of our system. A few caveats: members must still be in service and must submit that request at least 1 week prior to their end of service. If members have already exited, we cannot make that change for them. And this still is only for changing from the education award to the cash stipend. There's no ability to change from the cash stipend to the education award. Desiree also mentioned that we're going to be adding some FAQs related to the CARE Act and the Education Award. We'll be adding those shortly to provide details of the legislative relief that is for members who have completed at least 50% of their term of service so that they can receive the full value of an education award if they need to end service early due to COVID-19 circumstances. At this point, that legislative relief only applies to the education award and not to the cash stipend. We also added 2 FAQs related to our emergency travel and our emergency assistance benefits. Those are existing benefits that have always been available as part of VISTA service. The FAQs include details of those benefits as well as how to submit requests to access those benefits. So you can view that information online on the FAQs, again at nationalservice.gov/coronavirus. We're going to be updating the FAQs with the CARE Act information soon, and we'll continue to update the FAQs as questions arise and as new information becomes available. So please do check the FAQs frequently so that you have access to the most up-to-date information. So that is it for me, and I will turn it back over to Desiree. Desiree, are you on mute?
Yes, I was on mute. Thank you for letting me know that I had forgotten to unmute myself. While we were chatting, oh good, this came up. So if you can all fill out our poll, I believe that we do have a poll that has come up. In the short term, we expect changes to programming to address the following community needs. If you can just fill out that poll really quickly. While you are filling out the poll, I will answer a couple of questions I saw scroll by. If you've missed the deadline for summer associates and you would like to have some summer associates, then I would recommend you talk to your PO or your program officer or your PM and work with them on that. And then I also saw whether or not summer associates can full-time telework, and that's a very good question. And yes, absolutely. We all have to be following, I mean, really for the safety and security of our country, we all have to be following the guidelines of our state and local governments, as well as the CDC guidelines. On that front, I'd like to just mention that I think there are lots of creative ways that you can be thinking ahead about in how you could use those who are teleserving, whether it's helping you to drum up more, to write grant applications, to drum up more donations from your local community, to update your website or help you with your website. I think there are lots of ways that you could creatively think about teleserving and using your VISTAs to do that kind of work that you need. And I hope you'll also be thinking about and looking at history. I have no predictive powers, but I do know that in the House version of the CARES Act, they had added $250 million to CNCS. I'm looking back at what happened in 2008 when we had the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, and VISTA was appropriated an additional $65 million. So I do think it's important for all of you who can to think about how once it is safe and once we are sort of past this contagion stage, how you could scale up quickly in using VISTA or other federal resources. It's something that we should all be prepared for in case it happens. We're trying to be prepared for that as well at VISTA. And then, Barbara, do you want to give the poll numbers, or everybody can just go ahead and read that?
Yeah, I think the last results I saw, it looks like about half of the respondents here said this particular question wasn't applicable, but then there was a sprinkling of folks looking at making changes or who had made changes in the other three areas. So it looks like the technology was our friend, and we did get a good number of results from that poll question. So thanks, folks, for doing that. I also saw it looks like folks who may have been on a phone, maybe on a phone right now, went ahead and typed their answers into the chat. And again, it was a good mix, Desiree. A number of comments saying nothing to provide here, or that they're making some changes in their community, in their project.
Great. I was going to ask just two more chat questions. And the first one is and I'm not sure, do we have a slide for this one? I can't remember.
We do, yep, we're gonna move to the next slide, yep.
Perfect, thank you. What changes are you seeing in your project or community needs right now as a result of the coronavirus pandemic? That's the first one. And the second one is, what do you think this will mean to your project once we get past the contagion? I'll give you a couple of seconds to fill that out. this is really, really helpful to us. I can see that many of you are struggling, and it's just such a difficult time. But from this information, we will look through all these comments that you all made and work to do what we can to strengthen the nonprofit sector. I think that's going to be a critical part of what CNCS does for the future. We do know you are on the front lines, and you are the ones doing the very difficult work. Feel free to continue to answer those 2 questions, but I would like to open it up to specific questions for us. I don't know how, if Barbara is a speed reader, but she's going to try and capture some of those. And then I will defer to I will recommend one of my colleagues answer it depending on the question.
Sure, thanks, Desiree. Yep, let me get just a quick second. I had a number of great questions that queued up. Want to make sure. One thing that's good to know is there have been questions sprinkled throughout as we've been online with you guys this afternoon. Some of them I think are fairly straightforward and answered in the FAQs, so we won't verbalize those. And then there are a couple that I think are really specific to a particular project, so we may hold on verbalizing that and just give you an answer in the chat box. So I just want to give folks a heads up in case we don't read out your particular question. There may be a reason for it.
And Barbara, I forgot to ask LSI to advance to the next slide. Barbara?
Yep, there was a question earlier about the availability of the name-based checks for the criminal history checks for new vistas. I think the specific question was, will these be available for members that start after April? So I just wanted to raise that question. I think you or Carly had addressed that, but just want to restate that answer for folks.
The answer is yes, but Brendan Murphy, would you like to chime in here with any other additional information? Brendan, are you muted? If not, Carly, would you like to add any additional information?
I don't know that there is additional information other than yes, the online checks will be available after for new members coming on board. We want to ensure that we have our members having access to a check during this unprecedented time, and we are committed to having the online checks until we get back to our previous reality.
Great. There's also a question about summer associates, if summer associates can be full-time teleserving members.
Thank you, Barbara. Yes, of course they can. And that's an excellent question. I also saw in there quite a few questions about the 30-day emergency leave. We will be extending that, and we will have information on that shortly. But we don't have it yet. So we understand that's an issue, and we will extend it, but I do not know for how long we will extend it for. So as soon as we have that information, we'll provide that for you in the FAQs.
Great. There was a somewhat similar question from someone a few moments ago. The sponsors reporting that their members who are ending their service this summer are concerned about not having jobs. I think obviously there's a lot of unknowns in our current situation. Some have expressed interest in extending their service, their VISTA service. Is this possible?
Carly, I'm going to lob that to you.
Sure, I can answer that one. VISTA does have an extension option. That is an option that has always existed and is not special or unique to these COVID-19 times. It is something that can be used now. VISTAs may extend their service for a duration of time that is at least 2 weeks and no more than 6 months. So yes, VISTA members may extend their service for a period of time between 2 weeks and 6 months.
Great, thank you. A follow-up question about the end of service education award. I think if I'm understanding the question, it sounded like the new situation is if members serve at least 50%, they can receive the full award. The question is, can it be prorated if not at the 50% point? So I think that means less than 50% of their service term.
Yes, the rules will remain the same as they've always been. If you have served 15% or less, I'll have Carly correct me if I get this wrong, then you will not receive an award. 15% to 50% of your service, you would get a prorated at award. And if you had to end service due to COVID-19 after serving at minimum 50% of your service year, you would get a full award. And this will all come out in our FAQ that we hope to put out this week.
Great. Yeah, a couple of folks asked earlier if we could share the link to our FAQs in the panel. So if one of our colleagues could type that in while we're taking questions, that'd be an easy thing to check off. So you guys can see it should be just nationalservice.gov/coronavirus, I believe, is the URL.
And it's also on a slide coming up.
Great. Yep, it's on our resources slide. Thank you. Really great question here. I'm not sure we yet know. For folks that do have to leave service early and have completed the 50% of their service, will they still have non-competitive eligibility for federal jobs?
That's a very good question. Carly, I don't believe we've resolved that yet.
At this point in time, no, but that is something that we are exploring to see if we can make that happen. But at this point in time, that has not been provided in the legislative relief.
Thank you. There were questions, variations on questions around recruiting for this summer. Again, just should people recruit as normal, understanding everything that's in flux? Are there any changes other than what we've talked about, I guess? Any other guidance or kind of perspectives we would want to share at this point about summer recruitment? And I'm interpreting that to mean not the summer associate program, the kind of regular project recruitment and deployment.
This is a difficult time, and I know it's a difficult time to recruit. As long as you have a valid VISTA project that they can work on, particularly if it is remotely and they have the ability to teleserve, then absolutely. I do think that we need to be ready to scale up quickly if there is a time when we can do some kind of summer associates or surge serving once the contagion is past us. We also, just another side note to this is, you may have all read that Peace Corps has sent back over 7,000 Peace Corps volunteers to the United States, and some of them are looking for service opportunities. And they are another avenue that may be interested in teleserving or other types of service. And I'm going to turn to Carly and then Beth, if either of you are interested in adding to this.
Beth, do you have additional information?
I don't have additional information, but I am working to put together some helpful tips and ways for recruiting using digital platforms, and that we will want to share with all of the sponsors and supervisors to help support them for their recruiting efforts.
Carly, anything you would like to add?
Nope.
Great. Barbara, next question.
Sure. Yeah, there were a few variations of questions around the VISTA assignment description, or the VAD, how they're supposed to show changes, or how the changes that we've talked about and that folks have been chatting about, how sponsors are supposed to reflect that in their VADs. So I know, again, I think that's addressed in the frequently asked questions, but just wonder if we could restate that answer since it's such a pervasive one.
Carly, I'm lobbing this to you.
Sure. Yes, Barbara, this is covered in one of the frequently asked questions, so that information is available there for folks who want to look in more detail and to see it there. If you are adjusting your assignment to provide response activities related to COVID-19, including direct service, what you need to do is email your portfolio manager or program officer to report the new activities that will take place and the members who will participate in those activities. And that is for short-term changes up to usually a period of up to 30 days. I also want to address, just based on some things I've seen in the chat, if you now need to permanently overhaul the nature of your work for some reason and are looking to do something beyond just a 30-day temporary immediate response, then you would need to work with your portfolio manager and program officer to update the VAD in its entirety. So if you're just looking to do temporary changes to assignments related to COVID-19 immediate response and to address immediate needs, you simply just email your program officer with the details of that, as well as the names of the members who are participating in those activities. If you're looking to make some more permanent long-term changes to the VADs, please contact your portfolio manager or program officer to work through the VAD updating process. Great,
thank you for that. There had also been a question earlier, just in the land of FAQs, if VISTA would be notifying the VISTA members about the posted FAQs, or if sponsors were supposed to do that. So just anything we can share about the communications from headquarters to VISTA members, anything you think is relevant.
We would appreciate it if the sponsors gave that information to the VISTAs. We are also on a fairly regular basis trying to communicate with the VISTA members, and we have included the address, the web address for this, but we do appreciate it if you can pass that on, because I think you can do it a lot faster than we can. We have to go through quite an elaborate procedure now for getting our information out to all of you, and you will be much faster than we will.
Thank you. Great. I think we talked about emergency leave a little while ago, but I do see a few follow-ups or a few related questions. What happens after the 30 days? I think, Desiree, you mentioned what's going to happen there, but just again to restate and make sure everyone hears the answer to that.
So this is something that's very near and dear to our hearts, and we're working very hard on. We will extend it. I just can't tell you for how long. And after that extension, we are also looking at our options for that. So we will get back to you. We hope to have an answer to that very, very soon.
Great, thank you. Just hopefully an easy question. Where can we find more information on extending service? I think this may have come up a few moments ago when we were talking about that. That's standard practice of extending the service. So where do sponsors get the details on that?
Carly?
Sure. That information is available on our VISTA campus website, I would encourage you just to use the search feature, type in extension. That's probably going to be the easiest, quickest way to pull it up there. It is on vistacampus.gov, and you can always talk to your program officer or portfolio manager to ask them as well. And you'll notice that when you complete a future plans form, for those of you who have exited members before or had members come to their end of service, the future plans form is the form that you complete for each individual member to say what their next step in their service term is. An extension is simply an option on that future plans form. And it's very simple and very straightforward. You just, the options are like regular exit, early exit, extension. And so you just fill out the future plans form that the person is extending. There's not much more to it than that. It's very straightforward and easy and streamlined. So you can look on the campus, or you can also, if you know you have a member who's ready to extend, you can just indicate that on the future plans form when you're completing it for that individual member.
Great, thank you. There's definitely a number of variations of questions or comments regarding sponsors feeling concerned about meeting their performance measures or their grant commitments, and what that could mean. And I'm interpreting that to be what does that mean to VISTA, or what does that mean to their overall performance? I know obviously this is such a fluid situation. We don't have exact ideas about what the impacts could be. But is there anything generally you would want to say about how VISTA will be looking at grantees and sponsors' performance and communicating with folks about that?
That's a very valid and fair question. And we do know that your situations are challenging and difficult and stressful, and that some of the milestones and accomplishments that you had originally planned for you are unable to do. We currently are keeping our same deadlines for filling out all of that information and sending it into CNCS and to VISTA. What we really are asking for are what are your challenges, why, because of COVID-19, and to give us really a narrative on the challenges you are facing and why you are facing them. We know obviously it's COVID-19, but I mean in more detail. So that's where we are right now. Rob Cox, if you can, would like to add to that, I would appreciate it if you would.
Sure. Thanks, Desiree. Hi, everyone. This is Rob Cox. I'm the Director of Program Impact and Operations, or VISTA. And we, on a small team here, have been working with some of our other CNCS programs to talk about what flexibilities we have around reporting deadlines and deadlines for those folks who are getting ready to submit continuation applications for additional project years. As Desiree said, we're at this moment looking at the progress report as an opportunity for you all to tell us sort of what things look like on the ground for you. The performance measures, the performance milestones that you've outlined in your application is a plan. And we use the progress report. We know that your planned activities are not always what will actually happen, and there are lots of things that might interrupt some of those plans, even when we're not dealing with something like what we are with the COVID-19 situation. So we do not expect that you always meet the metrics on your performance measures, or that you always meet your planned accomplishments. What we do look for you to do in the progress report is just document sort of where you are, what successes you've had, what challenges you've had, some of the reasons that you've had those challenges, and things that you're doing to get around those. If, as we talked about earlier, we were asking if you've changed your programming in the short term, or if some of your VISTA members were interrupted in their service and are now going to a teleservice arrangement. Those are the kinds of things that we're hoping you'll let us know about in progress reports. And that's a great way for us to then be able to be responsive to you and supporting you in whatever reality that you're experiencing on the ground. I think the progress report also asks about technical assistance needs that you have of CNCS. And again, that allows our program officers and our portfolio managers to really see what you're experiencing and to provide any technical assistance that we can. So that's what I would say about progress reports. We just, in general, we understand that this is an unprecedented time, and that we're not expecting you to hold to some of your programmatic milestones. That being said, if you're having challenges in some ways connecting to the internet or being able to report on time with some of our systems, be certain to reach out to your program officer and portfolio manager and let them know about that, and they can of course work with you about any of the challenges that you're having. But if you have sites that have closed down or you're not able to collect data from different folks, that's okay. You can document that in the progress report, and that's something that we'll be able to expect and be able to work with you on.
Great.
Thank you, Rob. Barbara, do you want, we're going to try and run the first poll one more time and see if it works.
Yes.
And
there we go. So hopefully it's popping up on people's screens right now.
So in fact, it looks like it, yes, go ahead and respond to that. And while you're responding, I'm going to ask Beth Binkley. I saw she responded to the questions about the returned Peace Corps volunteers, and I saw a couple of you are an RSVP, which is fabulous. Did I get that right? No, I have those letters all wrong.
So close.
but you are a returned Peace Corps volunteer, RP. Why am I having so much trouble? C, returned Peace Corps, B. Okay, I got it. But Beth, if you could just quickly give a quick summary of what you wrote in the chat.
Yes, thanks, Desiree. So we have a team here at CNCS that is working together. Our CEO was CNCS, Barbara Stewart, and the CEO or director of Peace Corps have been working together on this effort, and we are currently putting together a website that'll be just for the Return Peace Corps volunteers to view and get more information with links on how to apply and how to search for the listings. And then next week we are going to be hosting a webinar to dive a little bit more into that so that we can present the information to the Peace Corps volunteers and allow them to ask questions and kind of guide them through the process of applying for an AmeriCorps position. And so with that, a little birdie told me that it would probably be a good idea to get your service opportunities into our system so that we have everything that's up to date and can make sure that they have access to all the opportunities that are available to them.
Thank you, Beth.
So Desiree, I think we can close the poll. Looks like we have some results on that. Great. Yep, we're getting answers coming up. So we see about 97% of folks on with us right now have members serving. About 75% are teleserving. 19% are doing a combo of teleservice and emergency leave, and then a few are on leave and a few are continuing to be on site. So those are the poll results. And just in the interest of time, I know there are a lot more questions that are still coming up in the chat. We will have those in our chat record. So I just wanted to let you know that they're still there.
Great. Thank you so much, Barbara. If we can, I'm going to turn it over you to close. We will have this call again in 2 weeks, and we'll let you know more about that call. Please let us know if you feel like this worked and if this was helpful. We so appreciate everything that you are doing. We know this is an extraordinarily difficult time for nonprofits, and we want you to know that our hearts and hands are giving you a virtual hug, and we want to be there to help you. Barbara, I think you might have some final things to say, but we do want you to know that we really are there with you. Our goal is to do whatever we can to help you help others.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Desiree. I do just have a couple of logistical items, including asking for folks' feedback. So if you can hang on for 1 second, we'll post our survey in the chat for you. Desiree did just mention we'll have another call in 2 weeks, and you'll be receiving the information. I am crossing my fingers that Zoom will continue to be our friend. For a lot of those very specific questions that you have chatted in today, things about your project or your particular members, if you haven't already, as Desiree said and Carly said, please be sure to reach out directly to your program officer or your portfolio manager. That's definitely going to be the quickest route for you. And then, of course, we always want to remind you to make sure that your email information is updated in eGrants and in the portal so that you'll be getting all the communications that we have. We do have a couple of slides of resources just to put in front of your eyeballs and to capture for our discussion today. Again, here's the link for our FAQs that we've been talking a lot about today. We really want you and your members and your coworkers and teams to be really familiar with these. Lots of good tips for how to help your community during this time. Of course, we know that is such a vital issue. We have additional resources to share as well. And then just to show this graphic for you, there are lots of great ideas here that are being circulated. I'm sure you guys are doing this as well in your communities. And then, as I said, I want to invite you to give us feedback on today's webinar. We would love to just have you take a couple minutes. It's a very, very brief survey that you see on the slide. You'll also see this link pop up in your chat box right now, so you can access it there. And then when we log off today, this survey will also appear in your internet browser, the same one that you're on for today's presentation. So that is all the housekeeping and all the logistical business. As Desiree said, thank you all very much for logging on today. We really appreciate your time and look forward to speaking with you in 2 weeks when we are back here. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.